Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. Again, I'm Rev Rich. And as always, I am grateful for you being here today and checking out all our videos. As you know, we are now in the Advent season. As you see the candles here, we've already lit 3 candles, one for faith, one for peace, one for love. And on this Sunday coming up, we will be lighting the one for joy. So I hope you can join us on Sunday morning or whenever you can rewatch it again on the YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe, like, and share if you know someone who could use these messages, as well as hit that bell so you're notified whenever another video hits the channel. With that being said, today we're going to be talking about the power of love as we are in the week of Advent of love. And the one thing we talk about is having enough wisdom to know the difference between the emotion of love and the power of love. But before we go there, I wanted to share some anecdotal wisdom that I've seen out there. And if you've been on any social media, we know we can't always trust the quotes we have and who says them or how they're said. So someone collected a few of them that I wanted to share with you today. So with that being said, let's look at some of these quotes that were pulled off the internet. So, if you are too open-minded, your brain will just fall out. Going to church doesn't make you a Christian any more than standing in a garage makes you a car. Bills travel through the mail at least twice the speed of checks. Men are from Earth, women are from Earth, deal with it. A balanced diet is a cookie in each hand. Opportunities always look bigger going than coming. Junk is something you've kept for years and throw away 3 weeks before you need it. By the time you make ends meet, they move the ends. I read recipes the same way I read science fiction. I get to the end and think, well, that's not going to happen. Health nuts are going to feel stupid someday, lying in the hospital, dying of nothing. And a few other ones. You know when you're sitting in a chair and you lean back so you're just on 2 legs, then you lean too far and you almost fall over, but at the last second you catch yourself? I feel like that all the time. Whenever I feel blue, I start breathing again. How is it that one careless match can start a forest fire, but it takes a whole box of matches to start a campfire? So if you see any of these quotes out there, let them know they're greatly appreciated to bring us a laugh today. But laughter is one of the greatest gifts of love there is. So I hope you laughed a little bit as we move into our story today. So quoting from the book Divine Audacity, we talk about the power of love. Now in Unity, when we talk about the power of love, it is part of the 12 powers that we learn, the innate powers that every human has and has the power to express. And each power helps build us to that highest level of consciousness. So during the Christmas season, we are celebrating the birth of the Christ consciousness within ourselves, that mind which was in the Christ. The candle we lit in the center here, the white candle, represents that divinity in us, that light that's in us. But to understand the power of love, you have to understand the difference between the emotional state of love and the power of love itself. So again, I'm quoting this from the book Divine Audacity. It says, the overused word love is much misunderstood. Misunderstood love is behind unspeakable acts such as physical and mental and sexual abuse. It becomes, I love you so much. Love is too often used as a weapon. I love you if you will do what I ask you. I will withdraw love if you do not. People say I love you to get things. Every day, 3 or more women, 1 man are murdered by their sweethearts in a fit of jealousy and rage provoked by love. This is coming from or stemming from an emotional state of love because we've misused it. So let's go to the actual definition. When love is understood as merely a feeling, affection, desire, attachment, or devotion, it makes sense that love can be warped. Affection, desire, attachment, and devotion turns into obsession in an unhealthy mind. We talk about this emotional state because, as it says, it can be warped. How many of us are walking around feeling unloved? Because now there's a lack of love, because we don't understand the actual power of love. When we do, we begin to change that perspective that we have. It is not something you get, it's actually something you are. And in turn, something you express, which becomes something you give. So let's look at it. Love is a universal power, the power of magnetism, harmony, and unity. As Eric Fromm says, love is not primarily a relationship to a specific person. It is an attitude, an orientation of character that determines the relativeness of a person to the world as a whole, not toward one object of love. Yet, most people believe that love is constituted by the object, not by the faculty. In fact, they even believe that it is proof of the intensity of their love when they do not love anybody except the loved person. Because one does not see that love is an activity, a power of the soul, one believes that all that is necessary to find is the right object, and that everything goes by itself afterwards. This attitude can be compared to that of a man who wants to paint, but who, instead of learning the art, claims that he has just have to wait for the right object and that he will paint beautifully when he finds it. And that's from his book, The Art of Loving. When we understand that the faculty of love, the power of love that we all have within ourselves, we understand it's not about a directed connection to one thing. In the example he used, I love to paint, but I will only paint when that right one thing shows up. I want to love, I want to be loved, but I can only be loved if one specific person shows. It is when we work in the power and understand love from a perspective of being able to receive and give and know that it is something that we have internalized already. And we know this because of the compassion we feel. And it doesn't matter what person you think is full of hate. They will always have a spark inside them that they're compassionate about something. It could be toward a pet. It could be toward an object. It could be towards something. But there is some kind of compassion that we see. With that being said, when we talk about animals, we talk about, the pets we have. So I want to share another story that was shared with me, and it's called Lucky's Greatest Treasure. Mary and her husband Jim had a dog named Lucky. Lucky was a real character. Whenever Mary and Jim had company come for a weekend visit, they would warn their friends to not leave their luggage open because Lucky would help himself to whatever struck his fancy. Inevitably, someone would forget and something would come up missing. Mary and Jim would go to Lucky's toy box in the basement, and there's the treasure would be amid all of Lucky's other favorite toys. Lucky always stashed his finds in a toy box, and he was very particular that his toys stay in the box. It happened that Mary found out she had breast cancer. Something told her she was going to die of this disease. In fact, she was just sure it was fatal. She scheduled the double mastectomy, fear riding her shoulders. That night before she was to go to the hospital, she cuddled with Lucky. A thought struck her. What would happen to Lucky? Although the 3-year-old dog liked Jim, he was Mary's dog through and through. If I die, Lucky will be abandoned, Mary thought. He wouldn't understand that I didn't want to leave him. The thought made her sadder than thinking of her own death. The double mastectomy was hard. The double mastectomy was hard on Mary, and she was hospitalized for over 2 weeks. Jim took Lucky for his evening walk faithfully, but the little dog just drooped, whining and miserable. Finally, the day came for Mary to leave the hospital. When she arrived home, Mary was so exhausted she couldn't even make it up the stairs to her bedroom. Jim made his wife comfortable on the couch and left her to nap. Lucky stood watching Mary, but he didn't come to her when she called. It made Mary sad, but sleep soon overcame her and she dozed. When Mary woke for a second, she couldn't understand what was wrong. She couldn't move her head, her body felt heavy and hot. But panic soon gave way to laughter when Mary realized the problem. She was covered, literally blanketed, with every treasure Lucky owned. While she had slept, the sorrowing dog had made a trip after trip to the basement, bringing her his beloved mistress all his favorite things in life. He had covered her with his love. Mary forgot about dying. Instead, she and Lucky began living again, walking further and further together every day. It has been 12 years now, and Mary is still cancer-free. Lucky, well, he still steals treasures and stashes them in his toy box, but Mary remains his greatest treasure. When we look at a situation like that, we understand that love is no longer a give or take in a situation. It is the action taken. So again, I'm not inside of a dog's mind, but in his mind, based on the story, his love was given by giving gifts to her or placing his love things on her as almost creating a blanket of love for her to know it was okay. And it was for Mary to be open to receive that message so that she can feel love. And in turn, that power overcame fear. It overcame pain. It overcame any doubt she had of surviving. And she went on to live for over 12 years. How is that working in your life? Are you looking at what you don't have? Are you giving in and giving gifts to your fear, your doubts, your lack? You're considering that you're missing something in life, or you blanketing yourself with love, knowing that everything that you desire is truly just a sense of peace. And that peace is already inside of you. That love that you express or show has to come from you. Even in the hardest of situations, you have the choice and you can take action in the power of love. Another story that was shared with me years ago through a video about the ultimate price of love. And this story is actually condensed a bit. The story I heard was a lot longer, but I like the fact that I can be concise with this one. And it is a true story. So this is a true story out of Washington, D.C. A 14-year-old boy had shot and killed an innocent teenager to prove himself to a gang. At the trial, the victim's mother sat silently until the end of the trial. When the youth was convicted of the killing, after the verdict was announced, she stood up slowly, stared directly at him, stating, "I am going to kill you." Then the youth was taken away to serve several years in the juvenile facility. After 6 months, the mother of the slain teen went to visit the killer. He had been living on the streets before the slaying, and she was the only visitor he had. For a time they talked, and when she left, she gave him some money for cigarettes. Then she started step by step to visit him more regularly, bringing him food and small gifts. Now, the end of his sentence, she asked him what would he be doing when he got out. He was confused and uncertain. She offered to help set him up with a job at a friend's company. Then she asked him about where he would live, and since he had no family to return to, she offered him temporary use of the spare room in her home. For 8 months, he lived there, ate her food, and worked at the job. Then one evening, she called him to the living room to talk. She sat down opposite to him and said, "Do you remember in the courtroom when I said I was going to kill you?" "I sure do," he replied, "and I never forgot that moment. I did not want the boy who could kill my son for no reason to remain alive on this earth. I wanted him to die. That's why I started to visit you and bring you things. That's why I got the job and let you live here in my house. That's how I set about killing him. That old boy, he's gone. Now I want to ask you, since my son is gone and that killer is gone, would you stay here? I've got a room and I'd like to adopt you if you would let me. And she became the mother of her son's killer, the mother he never had. So when you hear the power of love overcoming, when you hear that love conquers all, there is truth to that. And that is the truth that we need to accept within ourselves. We need to use love in a way of magnetism. As we send out love, we bring people toward us who are love. In unity, we come together in love. When we talk about community, we talk about common unity, that love within all of us. Whether it's for a cause, but when we live from a place of applause, when we need that adoration, we are already proving to ourselves that we don't even love ourselves. And that's where it all needs to start. If you've been following the daily doses of Advent throughout the week, you've heard various stories where we say that love has to start with us. Not only so that we understand the power of love, but that we can shine that light out. And not only in shining that love out so that others can see it and come to us so that we can help them, but most important, to give them permission to do exactly the same. So I hope you got something from the talk today. As always, principle number 5 for unity is it's not enough to know the truth, but we must live the truth we know. And that's what's important this week. As you hear this and you finish out the week of Advent in love, it's to go out there, attract love within your life, in all areas of life, no matter where it is. Be like the mother who used love to conquer what was perceived as hatred. To perceive not only hatred in the young man, but hatred probably in herself, because as a parent, we know the anger we would feel. But using the power of love, she was able to overcome that and create something beautiful. And as we move into this Christmas season, when we celebrate the rebirth of the Christ consciousness within us, when we come from a level of consciousness that says, I am love, and we give permission for other people to say, I am love, and that energy is created, that energy is generated, and that energy is shared. So I share my love with you today, as I always say, I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. And I honor that love in you as I say namaste, as that big, beautiful divinity in me sees that big and beautiful divinity in you. I hope you continue with the daily dose of Advent during the week. And Sunday we will light the last candle for the Advent season, which is joy. So I hope you can join us.